the other points from their research. So Alejandro, take over.
Well, thank you very much, Greg, for the invitation. And I would like to share with you some ideas what's going on Mexico. Beginning by saying that we are still on the track of the electoral crisis of 2006. And even though that the government of Calderon announced that the crisis was over and that he was moving ahead with ambitious projects, I think that it's too early to say that the crisis, the political crisis, is over. We are still in the middle of legitimacy crisis, and we still have not solved the credibility crisis of the political institution, electoral institution, and we still have mass mobilization in the places where the social resistance was grown before and after the election of 2006. So let me add that to some extent we are still in an historical perspective, we are still in the middle of a structural political crisis, meaning by this that on the one hand we are moving we're moving ahead of against the welfare state, imperfect, that we have, but also that it hasn't been solved what we call a political crisis of the neoliberal state, because we have entered into new chapters of this political crisis. Of course, I would like to say that Calderon has made some gains in relation to the main problems that he was facing, and in relation with the program that was attached to his government. In the promotion of the second generation of structural reforms, he has made some gains, changing the pension funds for the state workers, and particularly educational workers and university workers. And even though there was a very strong resistance that took a form very significant, because it had a judicial response that was completely unexpected by the government, because we saw thousands of people going to the judges, just trying to contain the advances of this reform. Calderon has also moved on the security agenda that was promoted by the U.S. government, particularly the agenda of the Security and Prosperity Partnership, in a very delicate way, because some of the big changes are now related to what we call judicial reform, where the state security has overcome citizen security, which is a very delicate issue, and I will go back to this later. In the first year of government, Calderon has used the army within the context of combat against narco trafficking but really trying to get control, territorial control of hot spots in the Mexico territory. And at the same time, he had been managing the presence of Zapatistas in the southern part of Mexico, and also of the APO movement in Oaxaca. The new development in this sense is that the armed forces are playing a new role in politics and in the civic environment in Mexico. And at the same time, he has been doing the development of the new consensus within the legislative, just to go ahead with the legislative changes by having an agreement between PRI and PAN. So this was made possible, the changes in the pension funds law for state workers, and also it's a key development when looking at the energy reform or the labor law reform that needs constitutional changes. So let's say that Calderon in this way has moved ahead, but he's still operating without any mass support. He's always going to any place in the country completely covered by the army, the police, and a group of secret agents just to be in a public presentation. And at the same time, we can say that the electoral crisis hasn't been solved, and the crisis of the electoral system, because at least in 3 of the main elections that we had recently, abstentionism has grown to 60 or 65, 75% of votes in, let's say, Oaxaca, Baja California, or Aguascalientes. So this is an indicator that the political crisis in terms of the electoral system hasn't been solved. It is also true that the state has tried to use the church to moving ahead into a kind of a religious state, but without any success. So I mean, the main debates that the church promoted, let's say, against abortion rights, and in some other cases has been defeated by public opinion. So here you have a contrast on what has happened. Well, finally, considering the problems of the economy, even though the Mexican government officials are arguing that the U.S. crisis are far from having an effect on the Mexican economy, the environment has become much more complicated because of the financial crisis in the U.S. and the perspective of, well, not officially a recession, but the diminishing of growth in the U.S. and the inflation pressures that are also hitting the Mexican economy. Just to talk